Morning. I'm struck by 7 words in the reading that a lot of people will be hearing read in churches today. Jesus looked at him and loved him. Jesus is having a conversation with a man who effectively asks him, "What do I have to do to get into heaven?" And that is so completely the wrong question. There were lots of better questions he could have asked. He could have asked, how can I truly worship God? Or how can I live well with others in my community? Or how do I love the way that you love? But no, this man doesn't get it. He thinks there's a list of things he needs to do if he's to be acceptable to God. He isn't interested in God or his neighbors. He's only really interested in himself. And Jesus looked at him. Jesus didn't look past him to see if there was somebody less self-obsessed around for him to have a conversation with. He looked at him. Jesus looked at him and loved him. Jesus loved him enough to invite him to join the Jesus people, even if his motives weren't quite right, and none of our motives are quite right, as a matter of fact. But Jesus also loved him enough to tell him the truth, which was that this man won't be able to follow Jesus until he's dealt with the money that was his effective God at the moment. When Jesus looks at you and loves you, he doesn't force you to follow. He respects you, and he respects your God-given autonomy so much that he lets you walk away sad, as this man did. Jesus looks at you and loves you. You know, when they pray, some people look upwards, which makes perfect sense because God is in heaven, and I guess we naturally think of heaven as up. And some people close their eyes and they kind of look downwards and inwards, as if God was in their inside somewhere, and they aren't wrong, because by the Spirit, God takes up residence in his people. But I have to tell you, when I pray, I don't look up and I don't look in, I look across. And I discover that Jesus is already looking at me, already loving me before I return his gaze or his love. That could be unnerving. Here's a person who knows everything I've ever done, ever said, ever thought, ever hoped for, and he's looking at me. But actually, it's not as scary as it sounds, because the look of Jesus is not judgmental, not disapproving, not ashamed of me. Jesus's look is the look of love. There is something in me that wants to be known completely. And there's something else in me that's afraid of being known completely. But in Jesus, my need for disclosure is met, and my fears of exposure are smoothed away. In our story, Jesus looked at him and loved him. So I'm left with a challenge to go and do likewise, to look at people, giving them my full attention. And please don't misunderstand me. There are plenty of blind people who are a lot better at giving others their full attention than a lot of sighted people are. This isn't about how our eyes function. It's about how our regard functions. And that's a different thing. God, please give me your eyes to look and your heart to love. Amen.